All right, guys, this is the review of assignment 26. This one we took a step backwards on. This was one we had some trouble with. All right, and there's some really key ideas here where I think you did it without watching the review video for assignment 25 because we're making some of the same mistakes, and it's going to cost you if you're one of the few who are still taking the exam. All right, so please, if you didn't watch 25, watch 25. I'm going to do this one in two videos. One with the free response questions explained, and then another one with the multiple choice questions explained. Right, whichever one is shorter. At the end of that one, I just got an email this morning. This is Sunday, the 17th. I got another email from College Board with a couple of suggestions or basically what to do if you're one of the kids who has trouble submitting or there's a glitch or whatever. I hope that hasn't happened to anybody yet, but I've read that it's happened to people in other areas and stuff. So they have something that seems like a pretty logical and simple solution to me. So I'll explain that and just a couple of other tips that they gave in this email that I read this morning. Whichever of the two videos is shorter. All right, so here we go. Assignment 26. We're going to do the free response questions here, and then I will do a separate one for the multiple choice. Okay. So the first question, I'm trying to speak a little louder. I feel like I have been coming off not loud enough. Is about Colas Mining. It's a monopoly and is currently operating at a loss. I want you to draw a correctly labeled graph and show all the following. Okay, so first of all, if it's a monopoly incurring a loss, just start with that. Draw that. And again, you don't have to draw anything this year. I know, I dig it. I get it. But you got to understand these concepts. So your price, your quantity, your demand, your marginal revenue falls underneath demand. Because since you're the only seller, in order to sell one more unit, you got to drop the price on that next unit, put all the units before it also, so that's the price and the quantity effect. Just in case they might ask why your marginal revenue curve falls underneath your demand curve. Right? They're going to produce at their sweet spot, their optimal spot, where marginal cost hits marginal revenue. And that's going to be their quantity, and they ask for their quantity to be QM. All right? But they tell you they're incurring a loss. Some of you guys messed up right here, and this is nothing new, ATC. All right? Some of us didn't even put ATC in the right spot and had them earning profit. All right, come on, guys. We got to at least get that right. But there's another part of this that was maybe a little new to you, and you've never seen that specific question before. So that I can understand having a little bit of trouble with, but it should have been misplacing our ATC. That's just being sloppy. All right, and we know that the monopolist is not going to take this price. They're going to jack it up to here, and they want that as the price for the monopolist. Okay, and I'll give you the exact wording of the scoring guidelines that you can get on your own, I'm pretty sure. But a lot of the ones that I've read say that they have to have dotted lines connecting all this stuff. Average total cost curve at once, labeled ATC, the allocatively efficient quantity. Some of us flip this around too, guys. Come on now. Allocative efficiency is where the price equals marginal cost. Okay? So that's going to go here. That's quantity. They want it as A for allocative efficiency, I suppose. Right? So some of us have that in the wrong spot as well. Some of you have that somewhere on the ATC curve. Right? It's where in a perfectly competitive market, remember, demand is also marginal revenue. So where marginal cost is crossing marginal revenue, that would be your ideal situation, right? That is the allocatively efficient outcome. The last unit produced costs the producer exactly what the last purchaser was willing to spend on it. That's allocative efficiency. So suppose the government grants Colas Mining a lump sum subsidy such as the firm earns zero economic profit. On your graph from part A, shade in the area of the subsidy. Here's where majority of you went wrong, right? This is our biggest issue. These guys are incurring a loss, right? So if you're going to say, here's a lump sum that'll take care of your loss, what do you want to show? You want to show a loss. So how much are these guys losing? They're losing that much. That's their per unit profit. Per unit loss, and they're losing it that many times because that's still their best quantity. That's still their optimal quantity, even though they're incurring a loss. So it's this box here. Okay, so you go from the price that they're getting at their quantity up to the ATC curve. They're getting that much of a loss that many times. So if the government's going to say, here's this chunk of money, that's the chunk of money. That price times that quantity. Right? And again, that's where majority of you guys were off. You were putting that all over kind of down here somewhere. All right? So again, you're not going to have to draw that. Maybe they show that to you and go, what does that represent if the government's getting involved? Will the profit maximizing quantity increase, decrease, or stay the same? Almost every one you said it's not going to change. You know that by now. It's going to change your ATC, but it's not changing your marginal cost curve. So that sweet spot is going to stay the same. You did fine with that one. Suppose instead that the government provides the mining company a per unit subsidy, such as the firm will earn zero economic profit. Okay, so in this case, they're not giving them a lump sum. They're going to give them a per unit subsidy of the same amount. And that will, again, we did well with this part, that will shift your marginal cost curve down, which is going to make your sweet spot come further down. So that's going to take down your price, and it's going to increase your quantity. Okay, so we did that. So in this market, and here, this last one really frustrated me because I think so many of you were just reading too fast. You said it's indeterminate. We don't know. You do know because you just told me. You told me that the lump sum doesn't shift your marginal cost curve, so it's not going to change your price or your quantity, but the per unit subsidy will. So, which one is going to lead to an increase in total consumer surplus? Or is the change indeterminate? Will either of them get you more consumer surplus? Well, if one's not changing anything, no, it won't. But if the other one is lowering your price and increasing your quantity, that's going to increase consumer surplus. Right? Again, just go a little too fast there. Slow down so you don't drop your dry erase marker, and you should be able to get it. All right, that's number one. I'm going to pause and see if I need to set up anything for question 2. Okay, so here we go. Next question was about this girl, her valuables, okay, and her total benefit. Again, be careful, total benefit, very different than marginal benefit. And the first question, calculate the marginal benefit Kerry receives from buying the third volleyball. So going from the second to the third, this one did not say show your work, so you didn't have to. Nope, you didn't have to. So if you could do it in your head, fine. I still have to do the math, but 95 to 125, that's the change in total benefit over the change in quantity, which is just 1. All right, so for part A, that's just $30. Some people put 1. Again, maybe you were going too fast. The only thing I could think of is that you thought going to the 7. But the question says, calculate the marginal benefit from buying the third volleyball. So that's a difference of 30. I'm not sure what happened there to make some of you jump down and go from 6 to 7, but read carefully. B, it did have to show a calculation. They tell you that the price of volleyball costs $9, and it wants total consumer surplus if she buys 2 volleyballs. Show your work. So here again, please let me know or let them know what the numbers that you're calculating actually are. I said that in the last video. I said that on multiple comments on your work. Please do it. Okay, so the total benefit she gets is 95. What is her total cost? They cost $9 each, and she buys 2 of them. Okay, so that's 18. 95 minus 18 is 77. Her total benefit from buying two, or I'm sorry, her total consumer surplus from buying two is 77. Sounds like a weird number. No, that's right. Um, Again, consumer surplus, you have to show what those numbers. Actually, in this case, they don't. It's not like you had to show ATC and blah blah blah. But you had to have the calculations. All right, so that one, I think, according to this, if you didn't have TC and BC, they weren't going to hit you for that. I think do it anyway. Better safe than sorry, especially with College Board. How many volleyballs should carry by to maximize for total consumer surplus from volleyballs? Explain using marginal analysis. Here's the one that ticked me off because um, you're giving the exact same reasoning, and most of you nailed it. It's 5. Okay. Um, if you missed that too, I'll go with that in a second. But you're not giving the right reasoning, and I'm afraid they're not going to give you the credit. Okay. So what happens here as she goes from 4 to 5? It's a marginal benefit of 10, and the volleyball, it costs her. So her total cost for that volleyball was 9, or so that would actually be, I guess, marginal cost because it's the next one. Whatever, it's always cost of 9. And then the next one, when she buys the 6th, right? Now she's only getting $4 of marginal benefit, and the marginal cost is still 9. So that obviously isn't a good decision. Most of you got that, all right? But what you want to explain when you're giving them that statement is that so many of you said if she buys the 6th, then her marginal cost is greater than her marginal benefit. Yeah, well, that's true, but that's also true of number 7. And just the fact that her marginal benefit was greater than her marginal cost on the 5th isn't good enough, because her marginal benefit was greater than her marginal cost on the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th. So what makes the 5th a special one is it's the greatest quantity, right? It's the highest number where marginal benefit is still greater than marginal cost. That's the way you want to say it. How do I know? Because that's what they say in this silly piece of paper I'm going to read to you right now. 1 point is earned for stating that carry should buy 5 volleyballs to maximize her total utility, and for explaining that the marginal benefit from purchasing the 5th ball is 10, which is greater than the price of 9. And you know what, guys? I'm sorry. I apologize. They say the marginal benefit from the 6th is less than the price. All right. I like it better my way. Sorry. But hopefully they'll accept my way, since I beat it into you now that that's how you should do it. But I take back some of my anger. I apologize. Anger, come back. Assume that the market for volleyballs is perfectly competitive and that soccer balls are a substitute. Draw a correctly labeled graph for the market for volleyballs and the equilibrium as price 1, equilibrium quantity equals Q1. Okay, I'm going to pause and do that for you. Okay, so there it is. It's just your standard old supply and demand graph from way earlier in the year. The only mistake, most of you were good with this, the only mistake some of you made was you thought perfectly competitive and you drew the perfectly competitive firm instead of the industry. All right, so you did something like this with your supply, and then you did Mr. Darb. Okay, so just be careful. It's not that. It was this. All right, this is the market, not the industry. It's going to come up on the last question about the wage rate. Right, that was a bigger issue. Here, only a couple of you did it that way. So if the price of soccer balls decreases, what's going to happen to your demand for volleyballs? They said they're substitutes. So your demand is classical demand. Make that demand 1. This will be demand 2. It shifts to the left. All right? They didn't ask this. They actually want it, or they show it in their answer key to sketch, but they didn't actually say to do this. This is going to be P2. That's going to be Q2, right? So if they did ask, that's going to take your price down and your quantity down. Anytime you see a leftward shift of demand for whatever reason, any of the determinants, in this case, the price of substitutes, your price goes down. Excuse me, your quantity goes down. Oh, and then calculate the elasticity. All right, we had a touch of an issue here as well. Okay, I hope we didn't have a problem with that. Check the scoring key. Drawing the correctly labeled to the bottom. 1 point is earned for showing the leftward shift. Resulting, they want some way, shape, or form, either by doing this or by showing I have a new price, a new quantity. All right, they wanted you to show that there was a new equilibrium, a lower equilibrium price and quantity. Okay. The last part about the elasticity. That's why I like these questions. They're kind of getting the full range of what you guys need to be able to do. Assume, where am I? That the, where am I? I'm sorry. Okay. Assume instead that a 10% increase in income causes the demand for the volleyballs to fall by 5%. Okay. So the demand goes on top. Money, income, price, everything always goes on the bottom when we're doing elasticity. So we're talking about a 5% decrease resulting from the 10% increase, and that's income, and this is quantity demanded. Right? So a couple of you flipped it. Remember, whenever money goes on the bottom, money's the important thing, holding the other thing up, right? And some of you, even though you did it right and said that equals a half or 0.5, what you didn't say was, because one's going down and one's coming up, that's negative. All right? And I think most of you left out the negative sign, got the next part right, and said that if it's negative, it's inferior. Okay, when you're talking about income, elasticity of demand, positive equals normal, negative equals inferior. Okay? I forget who it was. Somebody got inferior but gave a really strange explanation. All right, so just the fact that she has more money now and she's buying less of this thing, make it an inferior good. All right? I wish I could remember the exact mistakes somebody made with that. Hopefully I commented specifically on yours, whoever that was. Okay, then we got into we're talking about monopsony and the labor market. So let me just pause and see if I got to get anything set up. Okay, so first I did remember one person had said that it was an inferior good because the income elasticity of demand was negative. It's not about it being negative for income elasticity of demand or for normal good versus inferior good. It's about the plus minus sign, right? Is it I got more money so I bought more of this, or I got more money and I bought less of it, normal versus inferior. Okay, last one about the monopsony says Clean It is a perfectly competitive profit maximizing trash collecting firm, and it hires workers in a perfectly competitive labor market. That's the important part. Draw side-by-side graphs for the labor market and Clean It and show each of the following. So I'm going to do it and then see if we need to add anything that they want. So for the market, this is the market. It's perfectly competitive. So just like the market for any good, like volleyballs or soccer balls, it's your classic old supply and demand setup. Where here, this is the price, but it's the price of labor, right? So that's the wage, actually. I'll add something in if they need me to in a second. And that's the quantity. So the only difference here is, again, these are the people who are supplying their labor and how much is their labor being demanded. For the individual firm, for Clean It, right, they have to take this wage. It's perfectly competitive, right? Whatever the wage is, that's the wage that they're giving, right? If they give more than that, they're stupid. If they give less than that, nobody will come work for them, right? And this is also your marginal factor cost. The next unit you hire, how much does it cost? Or your marginal resource cost. We've heard it both ways. They can do it both ways. How do you know how many you're going to hire? Well, what is that worker doing for you? So this is your marginal revenue product, because it's not just what that new worker is producing, it's how much you're getting for that thing that they're producing, right? Like the hats. You're getting $2 a hat. So if a worker makes X number, it doesn't really matter how many they made. It matters how much they're getting from the sale of those hats. Okay, so this firm, Clean It, is going to hire that many, and they have to go with the wage that's being given. All right, let's just see how they want that. The marginal, the market wage, labeled WM, so wage for the market, and the quantity of workers hired in the market, LM. Okay, so they didn't want Q, they wanted labor for the market. The marginal factor or resource cost curve, MFC, or MRC, we already got that. The marginal revenue product curve, labeled MRP, we got that. The wage paid by the firm, labeled WF. Okay, so this is going to be WF. And it's the same thing as WM for the market. The wage paid by the firm, okay, you did that. And the number of workers by the firm, LF. It got cut off on yours, I think, but whatever. All right. Assume that Clean It is the only firm in the industry to adopt the new technology. The new technology increases the productivity of Clean It's workers. Here's the other part where we had major issues. Just pausing. I gotta get a drink. I'm thirsty. Okay, this was the other part where we had our biggest issues, or most issues, or whatever. Okay, in the short run, will the wage paid by Clean It be higher than, lower than, or equal to the wage F, the wage the firm was already paying? In the short run, it's going to stay the same. They are going to have to pay their workers the exact same amount, right? Because the market for labor has not changed, right? So if they're paying less, again, nobody's going to work for them. If they're paying more, they're just dumb. What is going to change in the short run? Will the number of workers hired by Clean It increase, decrease, or stay the same? What is going to change? Those workers, however many are being hired, are being more productive, right? They're producing a greater quantity. So now your marginal revenue product has shifted to the right. So now your sweet spot has moved over. The wage that you're paying these people is exactly the same. But now the labor for the firm has increased because that sweet spot has moved over. That was our biggest issue. But we had some other kind of crazy issues with this one as well. People throwing all kinds of weird looking bird looking curves and strange stuff like that. So that's the way it should be. If you didn't, I drew the marginal revenue product curve a little funky just because that's the way in reality it probably would go due to specialization and I'm just gonna pause. My family just got home. So. Okay, so almost done. Again, if you didn't draw it curved like that, a straight line is totally fine for your marginal revenue product. Absolutely fine, probably easier. I shouldn't be getting fancy. Then it wants you to calculate. Okay, so this one, some of you guys did it a little bit of a wacky way, but you still ended up with the same correct answer. I'm going to show you the way I did it, and I think it's how the College Board did it. But again, I think as long as you do something that makes sense. It says, Clean It uses capital in the form of trucks, which rent for $10,000 each. Now, I kind of knew where they were going with this, so I put the $10,000 on the bottom, all right? Because I know, as soon as I read that, I knew they were talking about marginal utility per dollar spent, or in this case, marginal utility per dollar spent, right? And they say that the marginal product of the last truck was $100,000. Okay, so their marginal product or marginal benefit or whatever you want to say per dollar spent turns out to be 10. right? So what we need to find out is the marginal product, if it's minimizing its cost. So either profit maximizing or cost minimizing. It's the same concept as marginal utility per dollar spent, except here it's not the consumer, it's the producer, right? So the last unit, it's the exact same thing, guys. And maybe we never actually spoke about this specifically, right? But you want the last unit of Doritos that you purchased to give you the same marginal utility per dollar spent as the last unit of Arizona iced tea, right? That you purchased. If you're getting more marginal utility per dollar spent from the Doritos, do more of that. It'll bring the marginal utility per dollar spent down. Get more Arizona. Yeah, do more of it, right? That'll bring the marginal utility per dollar spent for that down, and it'll bring the marginal utility per dollar spent up for the Arizona iced tea, and then they'll be equal. Same thing here for the people who are producing, right? If you're getting more marginal revenue product out of the trucks per dollar spent on the trucks, then you are marginal productivity or marginal revenue product from the workers, right? Per dollar spent on the workers, right? You want to purchase more trucks, and that'll bring down the marginal benefit from those trucks. It'll bring up the marginal benefit per dollar spent on the workers, and then they'll be equal. Okay, so hopefully you grasp that, and they tell you that the marginal product of the last worker hired was equal to 500. Okay, so you're getting 500 from that last worker. Okay, what is the price of that last worker? Whatever it is, you want it to be 10. Okay, so that's real simple algebra, right? What do you have to divide 500 by to get 10? It's 50. So that must be the wage that the workers are getting. Okay, and again, a bunch of you just flipped it and had the math going a little bit differently. I assume they would accept that, but I'm not positive. That's why I wanted to go over here and just to reemphasize the idea that it's the same concept as marginal utility per dollar spent. That is profit maximizing or benefit maximizing. This is cost minimizing, but it's the exact same concept, right? We want them to be the same. Okay, so I'm just looking at the scoring notes. 1 point is earned for correctly calculating the wage rate by showing the work of 100,000. Yeah, the way I did it, or no. Okay, yeah, the way that you guys, some of you guys did it also with 10,000 over 100,000. They said that's fine too. There was you even could have said 500 over 100,000 should be equal to X over or W over 10,000. So there was multiple ways you could do it. As long as you showed something like that, the same idea as maximizing utility, minimizing cost, and came up with the number 50, you were good. Okay, so that's it for the part twos. I have a feeling, this is half an hour, I have a feeling that the multiple choice will be much quicker, so I'll talk to you about the email I got today from College Board when we do that one. All right, see you later.